Welcome to the FX Masters program, lesson 14. This lesson is going to continue right in the same spot where we left off the previous lesson. We have already, to recap from the previous one, we have all the spheres in place. We simulated a master sphere, exported a long geometry cache that we used on duplicates of the sphere, as you can see. We offsetted the geometry cache in time to make each one of them look different. And we have some rough lighting in place to work. Next thing we're going to do is work on the ribbons of that you can see in here. So it's like a little fishy looking ribbons of cloth that are going to move around. The spheres, we made them with soft bodies. The ribbons, we're going to use cloth for the first time in this lesson. So let's go back into my simulation scene. Save the lighting scene. That's okay. And we're fine in here. This sphere is simulated. I don't need to simulate it to visualize the ribbon. So what I'm going to do is turn off the dynamics of the sphere. But I need to keep my scene in here so I can see where the ribbons are going to move. You may wonder, why are you using cloth for the ribbons and soft bodies for the sphere? Well, I'm sorry about the noise. There's an ambulance downstairs. The reason I'm doing that, I don't need the stadium for the moment. Let me just hide it. There you go. And I don't need the sun as well. This is the sky dome for the sets. I'm going to add it in here. Okay, perfect. Well, I use soft bodies in here because I like them and they're easier to use, and you can see that they give you a very nice result very quickly. Now for the ribbons, it's different because for the ribbons, they have to move and navigate around. So they come out of the sphere, come back in again, and they come out. So when it's moving so much and it's just a long strip of fabric, soft bodies might get a bit tricky because they stretch too much. And you can try yourself and you will see it. You will see what I mean. So basically, that's not really what you want. They're going to move too much, and it's going to be a pain in the ass. Cloth, this end cloth has even though I'm not a big fan of doing cloth in general, so I would never work as a character TD, for example. And if you're wondering what a character TD is, character TDs are FX TDs. They're just focusing on cloth, hair, feathers, muscles. So think of it as a hybrid between the character department, meaning rigging, and effects. So I would never work on that, and I turned down so many job offers on that because I don't like it. I don't like doing cloth. I don't like doing hair, feathers, muscles. That's not my thing. It's a matter of preference, that's all. But even though I don't like doing cloth, I appreciate that the cloth engine is very powerful, and it has the advantage that it doesn't stretch too much, or at least is very smart in trying to avoid stretching, which is the big issue with all these simulations like that. So what I'm going to do is create a ribbon. Okay, so let me just move it. Okay, my keyboard stopped working as usual. That's okay. Oh no, sorry, never mind. It's just that I'm away from the center, so there you go. I keep the sphere to get a sense of the scaling of this. So I'm going to give me some height and see, comparing, roughly with the image down here. All right, so I think I need them a bit longer. Okay, I think I'm fine with that. As far as the width goes, I don't know if this is okay. We can refer to it. Let me just see the comparison. Well, it could be okay. Keep something in mind, right? When these guys start to move and you start taking turns and stuff, flying around, it would fold and it will look thinner. That's what I'm thinking. And I like to always walk you through my train of thought and explain, what goes going through my head. Because that comes from experience over the years. So I know for a fact that when you start moving, this thing will fall and it will start to look thinner. So at the moment right here, comparing this ribbon with this sphere, it might look thicker. And it is thicker actually than this, right? But this is folded. You can actually, you can even see it very clearly in this one. It is folded. It's almost like onto itself, right? So it will look thinner that way. I'm also anticipating some sort of stretching a little bit, so it will make it a little bit longer. So that's my logic. Anyway, you will do this yourself. The assignment is to make it again. So let's see how you come up with in your testing. I think for now, for me, this is fine. So I need to give this the proper subdivisions for this to be deformed. The rule of thumb is to try to have always quads. So divided in quads. These rectangles will deform very ugly. Keep something in mind. Okay, the first time we're going to use cloth. But why do I teach soft bodies first? It's because cloth is a fancy soft body. It works the same way, just you don't have to. It's almost like having particles and end particles. It's the same thing as having soft bodies and cloth. Cloth is a fancy, more advanced way of doing soft bodies, and a lot of the stuff that we do by hand on the soft bodies, Maya will do it automatically for you, and yeah, that's fine. So it's useful, right? But it's pretty much the same thing. So basically, what happens is that Maya will place particles right on every vertex. You won't have to do them by hand. You won't see them if you don't want to. You can see them actually. And so if you have rectangles, it's not going to deform correctly. So you always have to have quads. And this is an easy way to do quads in here because you have, as soon as I put 20 in here, then these are quads. Well, not exactly, right? I have 1 and 20, so I have 20 times more in this one. So it will have to be like this. So these are quads. You need a lot of resolution, but you can, it's the same thing with the soft bodies. You can smooth it afterwards. So comparing one with the other, you will see how much you have. I think for the sake of speed, I'm fine here. End cloth is very fast, so that's always good. So I get 1 ribbon, and I'm happy with it. Okay, so what do I do? Well, to make it end cloth, we can do a couple of things. You could work the ribbon in the center of your grid, so work it there, get everything set up correctly. So if you put this to 0, it will go back there. It's up to you. It's not a big deal. Okay, so let's say that I'm happy with this. I'm going to save this as a different scene. And this is my sim, but it's going to be for cloth. Always keep things separate. Don't mix one thing with the other. Okay, I got my sphere right there, but it's deactivated. I have it for reference, and it's fine. And I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go and turn this into cloth. To turn it into cloth is very simple. And when I usually don't teach cloth on my courses, you can see that the FX Power User has a bit of it, because I don't like to get mixed into that. I find that almost separated from effects nowadays. Because what I said before, they use hair, muscles, and cloth, and that tends to be on their own, almost like a whole new engine separately. It does govern itself by the dynamics of particles. Yes, it has gravity, friction, collisions, and resilience, and things like that. But it tends to almost be as a separate thing. And in all honesty, even they sit in a different area. The character TDs are closer to the modelers and closer to the riggers and animators than ourselves. So they tend to even be sitting in a different area. On the screen credits, you will see that the character guys are in a separate set of credits on their own, meaning that they're their own team. So it's almost like a whole different job. Okay, so we as an FX TDs, we need to know, of course, a little bit of it. But there's so many attributes, and so it's so intricate that as a course, it will have to be almost like a separate thing, a separate course. So I will teach cloth my way, the way I learned it, and I think it's the way that will get you the results the fastest way, faster than any other method, and you will get it right away working, and you will learn in the process. That's how I learned, and it worked for me. So what I will do is just select the piece of geometry. Go to End Cloth, and go right away create cloth. You will get options in here. which are very basic. Anything, and I think it's worth mentioning right away, we haven't used end particles. Here you have end cloth and end hair, and end constraint and end cache. What's common about all these things is the letter N at the beginning. The letter N means nucleus, and that's the name of the solver that we're going to be using. That brings a lot of questions. What's a solver? Well, the solver is the brain that will calculate dynamics. On regular particles, what they call legacy particles, it has a dynamics engine that doesn't have a name. It's just built into Maya. And you don't access it. And what it means with that is that this brain that the legacy particles use is a simpler brain. In a way, that's why it works faster. It doesn't get too complicated over things. It's not aware of many things. And you make it aware of things as you add more complexity to it by hand. End particles, or anything for that matter with the letter N, means that it's using the nucleus engine, or the nucleus solver. The nucleus solver is a more complicated solver, which the purpose of it was to integrate particles, fluids, cloth, hair, all in one. Meaning that particles can collide with fluids, can collide with cloth, cloth can collide with hair, and vice versa. So it's a global world where all the dynamics will live. So that's the nucleus solver. So anything that has the N in it, you know already is governed by that solver. And the idea is that you will have the settings for one thing and it will govern everything. So if you put the gravity at 98 and you share the solver, it means that any piece of cloth and hair and fluids and particles that live inside will have the same gravity and it will interact with each other if you want to. So yes, it's a beautiful engine. It's very complicated as far as the coding of it, the insides of it, but it's easy to use for the user. It's easy to handle. The only thing is that it can get very slow, and it has sometimes too many knobs and buttons to push in order to get something simple done. And like I said from the beginning, it's not like I hate it, not at all. Actually, I like it. But I need to know when to use it and when not to use it. And for the purpose of the course, I want you to learn things the hard way or the normal, regular, basic way, because that's the way that most people use still. Then when you grab an end particle or an end solver, for that matter, an end solver, then you will feel like a fish in the water because you will think, oh, that's actually easier this way. If I teach you the nucleus first, and don't even bother about the legacy particles like some people have suggested, and you get to a place of work and then they don't use end particles and say, no, we don't use that because it's too slow, because it's problematic, blah, blah, blah. And you have to do the same effect by hand and you're not going to be able to do it. And that's a failure on you and that's a failure on me as a teacher. I don't want you to fail in any way. So it's always easier. It's almost like a mechanic, right? I always put that same example. You want to learn mechanics from a car, for example, for the very complicated car. Learn everything how the engine works, and then every improvement after that is easier for you to work on. That's actually that's a good analogy that I find. So anyway, so we're using end cloth. I'm sorry. End cloth. It asks you right here, well, what do you want to do it in local space or in world space? That's normal. Just keep it in local. So it's calculated here based on the dimensions of this. And the solver, it will ask you, well, this case is going to create a new solver. But if you already had a solver, let's say that you have end particles in the scene, it will make a solver for you. End cloth can ask you if you want to make a new solver and calculate dynamics separately on that one, or if you want to join the solver of the particles in that case and have them all share it. It's up to you. In this case, I'm going to create a cloth, and the outliner will show you that you have. Now, this is my geometry, which you can call it ribbon. That's the nucleus solver, that's the brain behind the operation. And this is the cloth node. Right away, without doing anything else, okay, if I hit play, this falls. And it falls because the nucleus solver already comes with gravity. I'm not going to teach you everything in the nucleus now because that's for different classes when we get to end particles. But just have in mind that this thing has gravity built in. You can use it or not use it if you want. I'm going to leave the nucleus as it is. I'm not going to touch it for now. I'm going to grab my enclave node, and you will see that you have a lot of attributes in here. And if you have open the attribute editor, you will have even more. You can open and open and open and go, and you will drive yourself nuts. Okay, with the amount of stuff. It's not scary for us because we're used to having long lists of attributes. It's just that it's a whole different thing. So my advice to you when you're learning cloth, at least, rely on the presets down here. I'm going to briefly talk about this. So this has, like I said, built-in gravity, which I'm not going to use because in this effect that we're working on, these ribbons don't suffer from that effect of gravity. They just kind of float around. So no, I don't want gravity messing with me. So how do I get rid of it? Under dynamic properties, okay, you open and you have a lot of stuff. You have something here that says ignore solver gravity and ignore solver wind. As you can see, then Maya comes in, the nucleus solver comes in with gravity and a uniform field that represents the wind. Two of the things that we mostly put ourselves by hand when we use the legacy particles. So that's fine. But right now I'm not going to use it. I'm going to ignore it. So if I rewind and hit play, it stays like that. Doesn't fall. All right, cool. You can put wind in here if you want to, but enclave will also respond to turbulence fields. So it's up to you. How do you specify the wind from the solver? You have to grab the nucleus solver in here and go and play with the wind. You get a wind speed, wind direction, and wind noise. It's up to you, man. I'm not going to use it. I don't want to use it because definitely in this scene, and again, it's nothing against the nucleus solver at all. It's just that in this scene, there's no wind. They have ripples because they move. They swim around. If I have a wind direction, they're all going to tend to, go into that way. What I want is just regular. I want actually nothing. What I want them is for them to move and deform because they're moving. I don't want any other forces. If anything, I may put a little bit of turbulence just to mess with them a little bit. To see how it works and how it behaves, you do need something. So I'm going to hide my grid because it's annoying. And I'm going to connect them to the turbulence fields that I already have here, just to show you. So you can grab your enclave, go to Window, Relationships, Dynamics, and here you can just plug it to either or the other or both. So it doesn't matter, either or. Here's plugged to the regular turbulence field, and you get deformation already. How cool. Looks great, huh? And you get a decent feedback. It's half real time. The beauty of the enclave, okay, one of the many wonders that it has is that it can, difference of the soft body, it collides with itself. So it helps it to avoid interpenetration. Actually, if we actually plug it to both, let's see what it will do. It will help itself avoid collisions and interpenetration. So when this thing starts to fold and fold and fold and sometimes encounter, face itself like there, let's see, I think there should be some sort of collision, no, but it's coming, hopefully. It gets tangled. The point is that it will avoid going through itself. And you can see it here as well. So it's avoiding going through itself. That is controlled over here when you have collisions and self-collisions. What's the difference? Collisions are collisions between this object or this cloth and any piece of geometry in the scene that you specify. That's collision. Self-collisions are collisions with itself. So if it falls and collides with itself, then it will avoid it. Well, it will avoid the interpenetration. It will just collide. It can get expensive. Very expensive. In this particular case, for this example, I think I need the self-collision, yes, because it's going to be moving and folding, and I don't want it to go through itself. But collisions actually no, because if you see this video, or you see the film, they pass through the sphere and move through it and go out. So it's not really a collision, because if it was a collision, when the thing comes flying, let's say this direction, and it encounters the edge of the sphere, they will collide and won't go through. And if it goes through because you're forcing it, and it's going to fail, and it's going to be a mess. So I can turn off collisions. Right now, let's see what kind of feedback do I get. It will speed up considerably. You can see. And it's great. It's a lot faster. And it collides with itself, but doesn't collide with the world, which is fine. Okay, I like it. It looks good. It looks like cloth already. What I will do is test it and then see if I need to change the material in here. Sounds good? Sounds good to me. So let's go ahead and change it. Let's go ahead and bring it into the right position. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the cloth over there for now. In this scene, once again, coming back to the reference, this scene has, they fly around. They move out, around, and go in, through it, go back out. So what I'll do is I'm going to work with my range, which I said it was 480 frames. Okay, and I'm going to draw a curve. So I'm going to look through my camera, and I'm going to draw a curve, and that curve is going to describe the path that is going to have the effect. So let's say that they begin here. Well, actually, I cannot draw it in this view. I need to go to perspective. Okay. And I'm going to draw my path anywhere I like it. So I'm going to draw like this. Here's my curve. I'm going to have it go through. Okay, I went away too much, but it's okay. I can fix it later. I'm going to go back in, out, around, in, and end right there. That's going to be the trajectory that it's going to have. You can tweak this and fix it and make it suitable for you. Anyways. Okay, so I get my curve selected, but it went over there. So I'm just going to center the pivot. And describe a trajectory that you like. That's something that I leave that up to you to do. I'm just going to move things around a little. Just to bring it within range. I don't want it to go too far. Like that. Okay, that's up. And then move some of the CVs up and down. So I'm just going to... Okay, that's fine. Okay, okay. Down here. Just do something interesting. It's up to you. Okay, I got something looking cool. Let's move this up a touch. This down a little bit here. Okay, so I like it. Let's say, well, I don't like this. This is a big jump. I don't want any sudden movement in here because, first of all, they're not on the film. And it's also going to mess a little bit with my cloth, and I don't like it. So let me just move the CD up. This one up. This one up. Okay, and the only thing is here, just fixing probably this. Okay, something like that. We'll see how this looks. Okay. This will be modeled for you by the modeler or an animator probably. They will give you the animated ribbon. Not the ribbon actually. They will give you something to flow along the surface. That's usually how it works. They give you the trajectory because there's not something for the effects CD to choose. The important thing is it goes in and out of this surface. Okay, so I'm happy with this. What do I do now? What you need to do is have the cloth, first of all, show up here and use move along this surface, along this curve. So in a studio environment, an animator will select the path based on the instructions from his supervisor, and they will work with the speed of flow along the curve, or if he wants to do it by hand, I don't know. And he will hand you over an object that will have this trajectory. If you want it, to see what they will look like, what they will hand over to you, let's say that they give you a little sphere right there. I'm going to select the sphere and the curve. If you don't know how to do this, Intro to Maya for Effects is explaining that one as well. That's simple stuff. Go to Animation, go to Constraint, go to Motion Path, and I'm going to attach it to the motion path. And you can see that the sphere, it went in here, and if I hit play, it's a little bit slow because the cloth is simulating. I'm going to turn it off for now. Down here. And the enable button to get my thing back to speed. And there we go. You get your sphere. Your sphere is flowing through the curve, beginning on frame 1, ending on frame 480. That's usually the behavior of the motion path. That's what it's called, a motion path. So an animator will hand you over this, a motion path, with an object. So that's cool. What we need to do is find a way to attach our cloth to this object, or at least to the curve. So how do we do that? Well, it's quite simple actually. We go to our cloth, and I'm actually going to bring my cloth in here. So what I can do is grab my ribbon, which is the original one, bring it closer to the start of this simulation, of this movement. Why do I bring it closer? Because it's just like the soft body, right? The cloth is going to find, this is like the goal object for the cloth. So the cloth is going to move all the way over here as soon as I hit play. So if it's too abrupt, then it's going to be a problem. So let's go ahead and re-enable our cloth. Hit rewind, move a frame, and it's over there. Yeah, so go ahead and find it. And cloth ribbon enabled. All right, so where's my cloth? There it is. So if I hit play, you can see that my cloth snapped back in here, just like a soft body will do. There's a gold weight between the cloth and the geometry that I picked, which is the ribbon. That's actually my cloth, but I'll show you later when we get deeper into the end dynamics, how it works. But basically, yeah, I move the cloth to the position where it's going to begin the simulation to help it be, in the right place. I'm going to orient it roughly. That's the stuff that I like to do to make it easier on the solver. There's so many reasons why it could break. I don't want to give it any more. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I'm going to save it. But eventually, I will want more than one curve. I'm not going to do all of them. I think in this shot, who knows? There's 1, 2, 3, and each one of them has multiple ribbons. So it's almost like 9 ribbons. I'm not going to do all of them. I'll do probably 2 or 3. And because I'm lazy, I don't want to redraw this curve at all. What I'll do is duplicate it. I'm going to rotate it to make it look different. I'm going to move it around. Okay, and I have it in a position where it could work. So I get my curve 2 right here. Do whatever you want. You can draw them again. I don't have the time because I'm teaching this thing quickly, so I have to do it faster. So I'll do 2. More than enough for me at the moment. Curve 1 and curve 2. I'm going to hide curve 2 for now. And I'm going to focus on curve 1. So here I have my piece of cloth, which works. But I want 2 ribbons, right? Because I want another curve, and that's going to happen to you. You're going to have to do multiple ones. So what I will do is actually delete end cloth. And I'm going to get rid of everything dynamic about that, and I'm going to stick to my piece of geometry that is static. Yeah. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to delete any history that I have in it. So, sorry, edit, delete by type, history. You can freeze transforms if you want to. Doesn't matter. If you want to reset it there. And I'm going to duplicate it. And I have one right here. I'm going to show my curve 2. I'm going to hide curve 1. I'm going to make another little sphere, and I'm going to attach that one to this curve. So animation, constraint, motion path, attach to motion path. So I can see that it begins right there, and it moves. That's good. I'm going to take my piece of cloth for the second one, so I'm going to call it, yeah, ribbon 1 is fine. I'm going to move it and snap it in here. And I'm going to place it, again, roughly where it's supposed to go. So I'm going to rotate it somewhere there and move it. And just double check something here because again, component. No. All right, never mind. Sorry, here. Okay, so I'm going to move this and place it roughly where it goes. I say roughly, okay? It doesn't have to be exact. Give it a little hand, help Maya a little bit. Okay, cool. Perfect. You can also orient it. I'm going to orient it as well, just a little bit. Perfect. So I get this. In your case, you're going to end up with 8 or 9 or 10 or as many as you want. You will repeat this process many times. My advice to you is once you're done placing your curves and placing your static geometry and attaching the spheres to the motion paths and everything, once you're happy with that and you're done with it, okay, my advice is to combine the cloth or all the pieces that you will have, combine them using the mesh combine, modeling. First of all, I'm going to get rid of any history in here. Edit, delete by type, history, modify, freeze transforms. It's a good practice. I'm going to grab them both. Under the modeling menu, under mesh, I combine them into one. That way, when you create the end cloth, when you go to effects and you make end cloth, create end cloth, okay, you get only one nucleus solver, of course, but you get one cloth node. And you might wonder, but why are you combining that if they're two separate pieces of geometry? They need to move freely. If you combine them, aren't they going to deform weird? No. Actually, end cloth is very smart. If you combine multiple pieces of geometry, it will recognize each one as a separate piece of geometry, as a separate thing. They will move independently, but you will govern all of them under one set of conditions. So they all will be the one type of cloth. Yes, you could do each one individually, and you will end up with multiple end cloth nodes. If it's your preference because you want each one of them to have different settings, then fine. In my case, I don't. I want them to be the same material. So I'm happy with that. So it works. Combine them. It's a good practice. On the film John Carter of Mars, we did set extensions. If you look at my demo reel on my website, on the VFX Running website, you won't find shots from John Carter. The shot that I'm talking about is a set extension that we did. So John Carter is standing on the front, and you will see this long row. There's some sort of a procession thing or a parade. All along the streets where the parade is taking place, there's a whole bunch of banners and flags. All of them wear the same material. Most of them share material. And we have, I don't know, at least 100 flags on each side of the street. So we combine all the geometry and then share one nucleus solver. It's faster to calculate that way as well. In something simple as this, it wouldn't matter, but I think it's good to get used to it. So when you can combine, you want to share the material. When I mean material, I mean fabric. What type of fabric is going to use? That is a good practice to combine. So I combine, I know that I have to disable already the collisions and also ignore the gravity for the solver. And I also had it selected here, and I connected the turbulence fields, remember? Relationships, dynamic relationships, and connect the turbulence fields. Save my scene because we're ready to simulate. And let's see what's going to happen. Okay, one of them, okay, there we go. It's right there. We don't need to show curves for now. Don't worry about the spheres. What we care for is the fabric. And yeah, okay, you can see that it's moving slow, but it's moving. One thing we can do, okay, if you want, just get rid of this again. Here's your ribbon. If you're happy with this thing, you don't want to separate this geometry anymore, delete the history. So you end up with one polygon with no history, you can see. This is faster. So save it and redo your cloth. Because it's so fast to do. You see, there's nothing special. So ignore gravity, ignore the collisions, and if you want to connect them to the turbulence fields. So grab your cloth, select that, done, save it, and here you will have a faster display. Oops, I'm going backwards. There we go. And it's going through. So yeah, it's a little bit slow. You have to be patient. That's just how it is. Okay, so we're happy. The cloth is looking like cloth. What is not happening is the cloth is not following the spheres. So, well, if you want to test it first and you want speed, okay, just to make sure once we attach it so they move, you can turn off self collisions and they will speed up a lot. A lot. You can see that it's going a lot faster. Don't worry, yeah, they will go through themselves, and we can turn them later when we're ready to simulate. We can turn collisions on. So for now, I think we're fine. This looks good. I'm going to save it. All we need to do now is find a way to attach the cloth to the sphere so it moves along the path. And that's actually, as I always say, very simple. It's very simple. So we're going to go in and we're going to create something called a constraint. We have used constraints on Intro to Maya for effects. Constraint is basically a link, a connection between two things. And the constraints are very important when you're doing cloth. That's how you pin a shirt to a character, a pants or a flag to a pole. Okay, there's a way to attach ends of a piece of deforming geometry to something static. And they're quite simple to create. Basically, you select the vertices that you want to attach, and then go to the end constraint and select one of the many that you have here. What I will do for the purpose of this example, because I want them to fold onto themselves a little bit so they look nice and interesting. I'm not going to constrain like someone will think at the beginning like it's a flag. I'm not going to constrain the whole thing here, because that will avoid some nice self-folding look. I'm actually going to constrain just the center. Let's say that portion, just that. You can do it for one row or you can do it for 2 rows. It's up to you. I think that's enough for me. Once I have the vertices selected of the cloth object, right, I'll go to the end constraint. There are many here. We're going to talk about them later. This is not a class on cloth. But the most common one, the one you will use for flags and shirts and many, many things, the one that you use the most is called the transform constraint. When you click on it, it makes this node, which is called the dynamic constraint, and it makes a locator, as you can see right here. The locator is that. Actually, if you grab that, you're grabbing the constraint, the whole thing. You just move around and just see if I can. What happened? I tried to frame it, but it didn't want to. Let me just frame this, okay? The constraint is down here. Actually, I can frame the sphere. There we go. If I select the constraint, there you go. You can see you're selecting this kind of locator looking thing, and it shows you which vertices are constrained. What it means now is if I hit play, they're pinned to that point. I can move it up, and look, my cloth follows it. It's almost like doing a goal object on that point. Move it down. There we go. So perfect. So I have a point in space. Let me just rewind this thing. Okay, I have a point in space that I can select, and my cloth will be pinned to that particular surface or that particular point. Here you have to make a choice. If you want to, do you want to constrain it to a sphere that an animator will give you? Let's say that the animator exported just a sphere with a motion, doesn't give you the curve. Then yeah, you have to constrain the cloth or actually the dynamic constraint to the sphere so they will follow it. That's one way. If they give you the curve, the thing is that you have to be careful. You have to. I need to tell you this because an animator can give you the curve like I'm giving you here. But sometimes they tend to animate different portions at different speeds. So that's why I'm putting the sphere here, because if it gives you that, even if you have the curve, I think it's better to constrain it to the sphere, because he might do some changes, and it's not probably an even flow along the entire curve like I have here. Right now, basically, the default behavior is Maya to take the entire frame range and put on the first vertice on the first frame, the last vertice on the last frame, and then move smoothly through it. Usually on production, and animators don't like that. They don't like to surrender all control to Maya. And it's understandable because they want to have the sphere at specific points, at specific times, and usually, probably, they will lower the speed when they enter the sphere. That'll be the natural thing to do because it's supposed to be inside full of liquid. I'm not an animator. I don't care for it. I will expect them to give that to me. So, but my point is that usually if they hand over the curve, don't go and constrain the dynamic constraint to the curve right away, because they might not match the sphere to that. Okay? So basically, well, it's up to you. In this case, in this particular exact example that I have here, it doesn't matter. I could grab the constraint and the curve and go to animation menu, constraint, motion path, attach to motion path. And it's fine. So let's test it. Why do I need to test it? Because I need to see when it begins if it's going to turn. Okay, so basically this sphere is no longer needed. That was just for reference. But I have this. And I can see that it's twisting on the first frame. It means that this locator is the dynamic constraint is rotating. It's changing. Actually, it went well now. I think it's fine. I thought it was changing orientation, but no, I think it's fine. It's moving fine. So we have to be careful here, you see? Give me 1 minute because I have a lot of noise at the bottom, ambulance and stuff, so I'm going to pause the video 1 second. Okay. There was some police and some firefighters or something downstairs. There was a lot of noise. But they're gone now. All right, so everything is constrained. It's not constrained exactly in the point, the cloud has a bit of an offset in here. That's me because I did that by mistake. I could have just moved the cloth a little bit closer. It's up to you, man. If you want precision, then you have to, to get rid of the constraint, move this thing back down to put it right where it's supposed to go. We can do it once, just to show you how it's created again. The problem is that now the cloth is combined. So, you see? So what's easier? What would Lewis do? It's easier. Just move this point up. So what I want to move this vertice. It's easier to move it closer to the geometry. You see how I solve my life and make it easier? And I put it right in the center. Okay, and be as precise as you have time and as you have money to spend in this. Done. I'm not going to spend more time than that. And all I need to do is recreate the constraint. So yeah, you know that. Select the vertices in the center. Go to the effects. Be careful, right? You need to create an end constraint. That's called a transform constraint. Done. Now select the constraint, select the path, go back to animation, go to constraint under the animation menu, the different things, and you attach it to the motion path. And test it one more time, then just save it. Okay, let's rewind and do it again. You see the first time it kind of faults, but the second time it's fine. It orients itself. Okay, so that's good. Let's do the same thing for the other one before we test it. Let's go back up here. Frame this. Okay, and where is my curve? I don't have it visible. There it is. We know that the sphere is not necessary, or if you want, we can do, oh, no, it's not necessary. Let's just leave it at that. We know what's going to happen, so let's move in this vertex closer. Perfect. Let's make a constraint for the cloth. Grab too much. I think this is enough. Back to effects and constraint, transform. Perfect. With the transform selected, select your path, go to animation, constraint, motion path, attach. Advance one frame, it will be funny, go back, go forward, it's perfect. Beautiful. Rewind and save. Now we're ready to test if this thing works. Because I don't want these messy curves annoying me here, I don't want to see them. I'm going to grab them both, put them in a layer, those are my motion paths, so I can hide them. Okay, now, yes, done. Save this thing, be happy with it, and let them move. Let's see what it's going to be. And there they go. They move quickly because there's no self-collisions. Later we have to turn that on. Okay, so they go through. They just want to see how it behaves based on the motion that I gave it. I'm looking for things like stretching, which here I have a lot. A lot. Looks like a whip. Look. It gets very skinny because it's self-colliding and it's twisting on itself and it's stretching. So it's almost like a piece of gum or a piece of like silly putty that you stretch and stretch, it gets skinnier and skinnier, right? So this has way too much stretch. That's not really what I want. So I'm going to rewind. And there's where the fun part comes. I'm going to select this and I'm going to use, well, like I said, you can go the hard way, the annoying way, and start messing with all these attributes down here. Or you can just do what I do, which is think of it in terms of real world fabric and what this is. I don't know in the Star Wars universe if they have silk or whatever, but this kind of, for the flow, it looks like silk. So you can go in and find a page probably that has all these attributes, the stretch resistance and compression and bend. The names are very self-explanatory, but there's a lot of variations. And you can spend days, literally, messing with this. Or you can go to the presets for your cloth, and here you have a few of the main types of fabric, at least it gives you an idea, available, and materials. So this could be a fabric of a t-shirt, but I know that the t-shirt has already some stretchiness assigned to it. I was thinking of silk. So here I have silk. And the beauty of this is that you can just say, well, make it silk by replacing all the values. And it changes a lot of stuff and it gives you an explanation here. So it tells you the silk is smooth, lightweight, flexible, but non-stretchy. This is the part that I like the most. I want it to be flexible and light to give me, you see, this kind of nice patterns. It looks like one of those ribbons that the girls from the Olympics were using, right? So it has a lot nice flow. That's silky in my mind. It's non-stretchy, which is perfect because that's what I'm going to be. That's my main enemy is the stretchiness of this. You can read the rest, fine. The beauty of this is that if you don't like the silk, then you can mix it with a little bit of something else. You can say, well, you know, I want a little bit of there's something here. Where is it? Heavy denim, for example. So I want half silk, half blue jean, or half jeans. Then you can replace 50% with this material, and it will adapt the numbers. It will just do all the calculation. It will divide it by 2. It will average between one material and the other. That's perfect. So that's how you learn. Then you see what numbers are using, and then that's how I learned to use cloth, by trying presets. I think it's the best way. So right now, according to Maya, this will behave like silk. Let's see if it's true. Okay, here we go. You can see that it's a bit slower. It's a bit slower because I'm pretty sure that it turned on the collisions, you see? That's part of the presets. So for now, I'm going to disable them so they move fast. Save it and run it. Okay, so we regain our speed. It's a little bit, as you change values, that's what I'm saying, that it can get messy and a bit slower. So even though there's no collisions, there's still slower than what we had before. But you can see now there's no stretching anymore. So that's good. Now what I'm going to be looking for, I'm going to be looking for the silhouette. I'm going to be looking for these ripples. Let's let it move a little and see what it does. Remember that I also connected this to the turbulence field. We might need to get rid of it or lower it for this simulation. But let's let it run for a little. Let's make it take some turns. The turns is where the most problematic part, where they will stretch the most. So here's turning. That's good. I like it. Stretches a little. Remember that we anticipated that at the beginning when I first created the plane. I told you, well, this is going to stretch a little. That's inevitable. It's going to stretch. And it's going to get thinner because it's going to twist on itself. So there you go. The two things I predicted, they're happening. But I have some really cool results. I think I have something very interesting. Once I turn the self collisions, then, you know, it might get cool. So I'm happy with this. If you'll see it through, then this ribbon is going through the sphere, which is going to be cool. I'm happy with this. So what's next? Well, next is going to be to save your scene and cache this cloth. And here you have two choices as well. You can do a geometry cache, or you can do a end cache for the cloth itself. Up to you. Up to you. What I know is that I need an export scene for the cloth. And here, what I choose to do is to do a geometry cache. So I'm going to do cache, geometry, and export. Let's let it run. I didn't make a mistake. I was going to say I made a mistake because I didn't export more frames than needed. But no, it's okay because we're not going to be offsetting this. This was the case with the sphere. In this case, my shot is 480 frames. So it's not really important to cache more. You could cache a little bit more because it starts on a static frame. So that was my bad but already because it's going well, I don't know. I don't think I need to go and rewind and run it again. So I'm just gonna let it go. I'm not gonna pause the video here. I'm just gonna look at it with you, just in case we see something funny going on in the export process. Just to make sure that I want you to see it. If something breaks or something, usually cloth doesn't tend to break like soft bodies. That's not what it happens. And I just realized something. I forgot to turn on self collision, so we do need to stop. So we stop. And it's good. It's a good thing that happened to me because it could happen to you. When you geometry cache, the dynamics get disabled. or you get some weird, funny stuff like this. You see, this is a cloth breaking, close to what it happens to a soft body. So right now, this is not what you want, and I rewind it, but I still have in my history, I'm gonna have, well, I didn't have the end cache. Just to make sure, I'm just gonna go to cache, geometry cache, and I'm going to make sure, oh, nothing is here. So I'm gonna disable all caches on selected just in case. So I go back to dynamics. I'm gonna turn self collisions. I'm gonna save my scene. Now that I went back, I can probably cache a little bit more frames. So I'm gonna cache, let's say, well, let me think here. Because I do want, this is what I'm thinking, right? I want the cloth to begin in a deformed position. Yeah? So what I will do is to do something new, which I'm just gonna grab my cloth in here, which is right here. And I have, actually it's not here, it's on the solver itself. If you grab the nucleus solver, then you go back in here and you have an option where you say start frame. And start frame is set to 1. It's just like particles. What I will do is actually begin this on, let's say, negative 24, so a second before. I'm going to set my start frame now is negative 24. You remember that the animation, okay, goes from, why is not visible, my curves. I think I put the curves in a different layer by accident. Okay, so no stadium, no sphere sun, no particles. Okay, it's okay, it's starting to act weird. So it's doing something, you see Arnold render, displays on blah, blah, blah. It's doing something strange in here. I'm trying to pause it to make sure that this thing starts to work. That's why it's good to save. I don't know what it's doing, it's converting some stuff in the Arnold render here, but I didn't hit render. Oh yeah. I think I hit render by accident, so it's rendering the stadium. Probably, I don't know. That's weird. Okay, pause, kill the render. Well, bear with me 1 minute. It's good that it's a quick render. Okay, so it's done rendering the stadium for some reason. Fine, thank you. I don't want to see the stadium. What is this? I don't want to see this. Okay, I think we're back to normal. I don't want to see the particles. All right, so what I was going to say is that I wanted to see the curves, but it didn't show. Okay, now that you can see them. So the curves, as you can see, the first frame of them is frame 1. I hope you can see it. There's a little green one right there. And it ends on frame 480. I'm going back to negative 24 and I'm telling the nucleus solver to begin the simulation on negative 24. So it's fine because that will give me the advantage of not having the cloth move, but beginning on the form position. So if I run my simulation, remember it's a bit slow because it has self collisions turned on. I just want a little bit of deformation, that's it. This is fine for me. So if I'm happy with this, I can select the cloth, go to the end cloth menu, and say something like rest shape. 1 second. I'm trying to remember because I don't use this too much. But there's a way to save the initial state. So let's say I think it's this one. If I hit rewind, no, that's not this one. Let me deform them again. Okay, let's look for it again. So it's end cloth. Okay, rest shape. The next selected mesh to the rest shape. That's not what I want. It's almost like an initial state, but I don't see it. So I'm not going to worry about it. Like usually is my motto. I know that you see in 8 frames, this thing got to a position where I like it. So instead of starting on -24, I'm just going to start probably -6, -8. I think a -6 is more than enough. So I'm going to grab my nucleus solver. Once I find that, I'm not saying that I'm going to disregard that. And once I find that, I'm going to tell you what it is, but I don't remember right now. I'm human, right? So I get my nucleus solver, and I said now that I'm going to begin on -6, my simulation. So rewind it. They go static. And now it's easy. I can just save it. Select my cloth. And I'm going to create a geometry cache. And I'm going to create a new cache for the cloth that is here. Using the same settings that I have here. It doesn't really matter. Evaluate every frame. It's going to use the time slider, meaning that it's going to cache from -6 to 480. If you want a little bit more, you can put 500 just in case, to have a little bit behind and a little bit on front. Okay, and I'm going to hit create. Because it's going to take a little bit of time, I'm going to pause the video. When the cache is done, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to replace the existing cache, which is perfect, yes, because I already had one made. And it's going to start to run. It's running a little bit slow, like I said, so I'm going to have to pause it. If I see any issues on the way, I'll tell you when I go back. Okay, so I'm going to pause this, get a little bit of water. I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, I'm back. The cache is about to finish. You can see 497, 499, 500 frames. I unpause the video right before it finished because I need to show you something. Once it's done caching, the first thing you need to do always is to rewind and save your scene. Save my scene. That will make sure that the cache node is allocated into your geometry here. So here you get, okay, output cloud cache is right here. If you don't save it, you rewind and save it, then it's not going to be assigned to it. So that's always a good practice. When it's done, rewind. Before you see anything, save it, and it's fine. I was looking at it through the process, and nothing went wrong. Everything was fine. We got some nice deformations. I think we're good here. Because I want to export just the cloth, or just the cache for this thing. I'm going to import that into my other scene. So what I'll do is delete everything that I don't need in this one. So because this is my export scene, remember? So it's fine. So I'm going to save it one more time just in case. I don't need the stadium, not the render camera. I don't need the sphere. I don't need the lights. I don't need the springs or particles or anything like that. I don't need my render camera either. I don't need curves. And I don't need any of this. Okay, I'm going to save this thing as ribbon export. Okay, instead of being cloth sim export, you can just say, well, I don't know, anything you like. I can just say ribbon. Okay, I'm gonna, it's saved already. I'm gonna pause the video 1 second because I have to take an important phone call, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. So yeah, everything is saved. Why do I do this? You know, I think we discussed that before in the group, the support group. I don't like to export or export geometry or something like this, export it from here to another scene. I don't like that. I like to save it as a separate scene with nothing in it, no nothing annoying, right? So no geometry, nothing left over from effects or shaders that I don't need. I want something very simple, very clean, with a nice name, ribbon. If you look at it here, all it has is one material and the cache node. So this should work fine. It's very fast. Again, we gain back our speed, which is what we want. You see, it's moving. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's deforming. Beautiful. It's going really fast. This is what I want. So I'm going to save this thing. Now it's time to go. We're done with simulations. Now it's time to go to the render scene, which is this one, right? The light. This scene has no dynamics, as you know. Now I can go in and import my ribbon. And it's right there. This ribbon has 480 frames, as you can see, moved through because everything was done. The only thing that I didn't anticipate is that it goes through the floor of the stadium. And that was my bad when I simulated this. I had the stadium there. I could have put it there and have the curve node go below that. But okay, for the sake of this example, I cannot go back. I don't want to go back and redo that. But I could if I wanted to. That's the beauty of this. So I'm going to save my scene now, my render scene with my new ribbons in place. But if I needed to do that, if that happened to you, there's no problem. You can go to the sim for the cloth, adjust the curve, and export it and cache it, and then save as a new ribbon. This ribbon is saved just because I wanted to save this geometry. If you have to redo that, all you have to do is go back to your cloth sim, fix the curve where the cloth is moving, save it as an export scene, and export the geometry cache. You don't have to do this step anymore. And all you have to do is replace the cache, and this will pick up the new deformation. Because it took a few minutes, it didn't take too long. It took probably about 5 minutes to cache the geometry, but I don't want to go back and redo it. I'll leave that up to you to do it correctly. I could cheat it. I could move the stadium down or something. I don't know. But I think I'm fine with this. I could move the floor down. I don't want to do that. It's not necessary. I think we're in a good position here. This is a good frame to test it. You can pick any you like, and you can see that now you have real-time display. Probably let's pick one that it has a ribbon inside the sphere. Let's find one. This one. Let me see. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay. This could be good. Let me look at it through the perspective. Yeah, I got ribbons under the ground. Well, it happens. It's okay. Don't worry about it. What I like is that they have ribbons inside the sphere because we're going to be testing now what you can see through it. So I think that's good. Okay, I'm going back to my render camera. We need to assign a material to these guys. And I think it's a good practice. God damn it, I had the frame selected. What frame was it? 103. Okay, it's right there. I think it's a good practice to, when you assign materials to these things, if you're going to be rendering with Arnold, I think it's a good idea to use Arnold materials for everything, even if it's a basic shader. So go to Hypershade. I have two shaders in here because one of them came through with this. I forgot to clean. Okay, I forgot to clean the scene with this one. So I have an AI standard and I have an effects masters lesson 13. Okay, so this one I don't need. This is the one assigned to the sphere. So yeah, the AI standard material it came through. Same thing with this one, right? What's this one? Okay, that's fine. That's the Lambert of this ribbon. What I'm gonna do is assign an Arnold shader, the same one, okay? The AI standard shader, that's the basic one. I'm gonna assign that one to the ribbon. And I'm also gonna grab the whole stadium. Let me just, okay, so I'm gonna grab my whole stadium, so select objects, and I'm gonna assign them, actually, let me just make a new material. You can call this one AI standard, you can call it, to know which one, right? AI standard for ribbon. I'm gonna make another one. AI standard for stadium. And now, yes, I'm gonna select the whole thing in the stadium, the whole geometry. Select the objects, and I'm going to assign the stadium shader to that. So each one of them now is using a AI material, meaning a Arnold material. One thing you need to turn on right away is because this default material is coming with reflections. Let's make sure that it doesn't. Let's make sure that it's basic. No reflections here. That's good. No reflections there. Okay, so these materials are basic. They're white. The ribbons, we can make them a different color. Let's make them red ones. Bright red for now. Okay. Oh, sorry, I was doing it in the specular. That's not what I want. I need to go back in the color of the diffuse. Red. You will see them red. The stadium, pick anything you like. I don't know. I'm going to use just, for now, just gray. Because it looks, well, you have to texture it. You have to do many things if you want to push it to the end. But yeah, it's almost like a grayish color. So I'm just going to use, let's see if I can find a grayish blue tone. It's not too saturated. Something like that. I don't know. Okay. I think it's better this way. Okay, save my scene. And now we'll test and see what we have. If I notice that the renders take too long, I'm going to have to pause the video, right? And so you don't see a render coming through, because it's like watching water boil, right? It's annoying and boring. Let's see. I'm going to lower the resolution. Hopefully it's rendering through the right camera. Let's see. I didn't check that, but it looks like it is, yes. Okay, so something is coming through already. You need to try to accommodate as many changes as you can on each iteration of your render. So I usually look at the render and I say, okay, I'm going to change this, 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 and this. It's better that way. So you save time. I'm liking what I'm seeing because I'm seeing through the sphere. I see the cloth, and it's interesting. Well, let's wait for the render to finish. I make them bright red so you can see them easier. And also, it looks like on the sample they're kind of reddish. I like that the stadium went down in darkness. This material, because it's darker, means that we can hit it with a bit more light, which is always better. I can see the ribbons, like I was saying. I know that they're not deformed like this. These are distortions coming from the deformations of the sphere. That's what you want. This is beautiful. I think it looks great. I also noticed, yes, that the light that is hitting the spheres is too strong. And because we have the highlight right in the front and we have only one highlight coming from the sun, then we get boring, repetitive results. That's what I was telling you earlier. If we have an image, we're going to change it. If we have an image that has multiple lights, it will make it look more beautiful. But right now, I like what I see. I can see through, because I can see the ribbons, and let's compare it. You can see the original ribbon is straight, right? It's this one. But you get deformations here. This is great. It means that the deformations of the sphere plus the refraction of the light is making this kind of the distortions. It looks amazing. I like it. Cool. So let's accommodate as many changes as possible. First change, we're going to increase the magnitude of the sunlight in here on the stadium. So let's go in here. Let's find it. Let's go to Window, Outliner. We have the stadium light, the set light. I'm going to increase its magnitude. I'm going to triple it. That's good. I'm also going to change the light, the image that we're using for this sphere. Let's find something different. So let's grab another light. And let's change this image. And I'm going to use one of the ones that I downloaded for free on the websites that I showed you. I don't remember if it's the kitchen. That's good. Let's see this one. That's the stadium one. I don't want to use the same one. I don't like it. Too purple, but we could try it. For fun. Let's try it. Okay, so here it is. Save it again. This might come too bright, so because I anticipate it's going to come too bright, I'm going to save this one and I'm going to render just a tiny bit of one, because I think it's going to come with a lot more light than we have before. It happened to us in the stadium, and there we go, it's true. Way too much. So that's fine. We're going to grab the light again, and we're going to lower the intensity. Try it again. That's how you work efficiently, you see? Little portions of things. Way too much still. I'm going to lower it 10 times more. Big changes, huh? Let's see this one. Coming through, coming through, coming through. It's nice, but it has too much of a recognizable shape in here. So the yellow, I don't know. I'm not too big fan. You know, this bright yellow spot right here. So let's pick another one. It was worth a try. Too green. This could be interesting. Let's see what else we have. We have a beach. I like this one. This could be interesting. Let's try this one. Loaded, little portion. Remember the first time you change an image, Arnold will convert it to the format. It looks like this one also came very bright. It's unbelievable how bright it is. Okay, try again. Unreal, the amount of light that is coming through. Let's see if it supports. It doesn't take any lower than this. Well, let me see if I can lower the exposure of this. And try it again. Okay. Unbelievable, the amount of light. One more time. I like it. It's getting, I think it's interesting. I don't know, it could be. This could be interesting. Let me just bring this back. Because I have to take the exposure of the image down a lot to darken it because it's too bright. But we'll keep that one in mind. Let's just see, that's the Stepter's probe. Let's see if we have another one. We have, this could be interesting. Let's try this one. The lobby one. All right, let's see. Okay, so this one is a lot duller. The image is a lot, it has a lot less light. So let's see if we bring this back to normal. Exposure back to 0. If you don't know what the exposure of an image is, you should read a little bit about it. It's good to learn photography as a hobby, or just, you know, because those aspects are, you know, valid in photography. So I think this is a better image. I don't like when they're too crazy that you have to lower it so much. Almost tells me that they probably wasn't taken the right way. Okay, so you can see that now I can improve and bring back my my light back up to start to read it. Let's see. It's coming through. We can put a little bit more. Not too much. Let's see what it does. Okay, I like it. Here you can, if you think that has too much color and you want to take down a little bit of the color, you can just mess with these values. You can lower the diffuse, for example. Basically, the contribution of the color of the image on this will be less. You can save it and try a copy. You will see that it will have a lot less color in here. So, well, it's hard to read it. It's not really much. You can lower this a lot and then see. You can bring up the specular highlights in here. Let's see. I think it's interesting. A bit too bright. So I'm going to lower it one more time. This is the life of a lighter. They spend days and days just testing numbers and hitting test render again. That's what they do. That's what I don't do it. Okay, so that's good. Volume samples set to 2. Okay, let's try up in this number a little bit. Okay, good. I think it's a good good opportunity to try and render this, the full image. So I'm going to save again and hit render and see what happens. Let's see. All right, so we can see the distortion really nicely in here. I think it's good to have the shape of the ribbon. The material is working well. It's just a matter of choosing the right picture, the right image for this. In your testing, okay, if you're looking at the example, obviously there's going to be more lights involved. So they have a big bright source of light down here pushing up. That's giving a lot of the highlights in here. So we can incorporate that as well. We can add a light down here going up and have that light, you know, kind of bounce all over the place. So you wouldn't rely so heavily on the image that we're using. We use this one for color. I'm not a big fan of this image anymore. It's kind of bright in here. I don't like when it has those bright spots like that. So I'm going to try to stop this render, see if it stops. I can see now, I see enough here. Doesn't want to stop, that usually happens. But it's almost done. I can see there's more light in the stadium, probably needs a little bit more. But I don't like this bright spot down here. So a couple of changes we're going to incorporate. The light on the set, we're going to bring it back to, sorry, I selected the wrong. I think I had it at 0.25, right? Can probably bring it to 0.3. I'm going to change this image one more time for the sphere. Let me see if I find something different. That's the one I was using. Nothing, no. I think we used this one already, right, or not? That was giving us a decent result. But we had to lower the values a lot, right? Okay, nothing here, nothing here. This one was the bright yellow spot, I didn't like it. All right. We're gonna have to go back to the sky. Let's see if we have a sky here that is useful. I have to keep an eye on the size of these images. I don't wanna spend too much time searching, so hopefully we can come lucky and find something. Let me just see if there's something created recently. Nothing in here. I just see if I can find the one I'm using on my example. So let me see. Okay, seems like in here there's something. $112. Probably that's the one I was using earlier. Yeah. I'm just looking for the ones that have the TX, means that Arnold already converted those. So 96, I used it already. Let me see. That's the one we're using right before. 106. Okay, I like this one. So let's use this one. 106. Try it again. On a little portion, because I don't know what's going to be. If it's too bright or not too bright. Well, not bright enough, I'm sorry. So let's see. Okay, that's fine. It's a bit on the dull side. Let's just see what we can do. I'm going to bring these numbers back to what they were before. Intensity to 1, I think is going to be too bright, but I just want to try it. This section here in the center is going to take longer to render because he has the ribbons and he has to look through them and distort them, you know, do all those kind of stuff. Okay, this image is alright. I'm not a big fan of it. I want to double check something. I want to make sure that there's no other lights in here that are messing with my spheres. So I'm going to go back to the light linker, light centric. Sometimes they get reconnected, so you gotta be careful. So this is the sphere, and it's lighting the sphere, and it's lighting. Where's my cloud? Here's the cloud. You choose. If you want to light the cloud with the light of the sphere, that's fine. The dome light is also lighting the ribbon, so it's up to you. You pick. I think it looks good. It looks bright red. That's fine. Nothing is interfering with anything else, so that's good. Yeah, we're fine. Okay, so, well, it's a bit bright. Lower it again. Try one more time. And we're getting close to an end because, like I said, this kind of tells you the values that you need to tweak in order to get something interesting. Depends. I'm not a big fan of this. We can add the light at the bottom. So let's create a light. We can make any light you like. I'm gonna make a, I don't know, spotlight. Going back to the perspective view, find it. I'm gonna bring it in there. I'm gonna frame it. There it is. Rotate it. And basically, I'm gonna look through it. Look through my light. Okay, here are my spheres. I'm gonna open the cone for it to, let's say, 80. It's not that big of a light. It's not gonna cover the whole stadium, right? So 80, and then you do your tricks. You do a little bit of penumbra for it. Well, I'm not gonna do decay for now, and then probably place it back to perspective. Place it underneath your sphere, your main sphere. Let me check the rotations. The rotation should be 90 degrees. And yeah, I think we need a big cone. So let's just try 300. No, too much. Of course, it's not going to go any higher than 180. So let's just go for 120, 140. Okay, something like that. On the light linker again, let's make sure that it's not lighting something that it shouldn't. So that, for example, this piece of geometry here, I don't want it to be included in the lights. So relationships, light linking, object centric. Not selected. It's a shame. I thought it was selected here for me, but I think to be on the safe side, honestly, I would just do it this light centric. Okay, select my spotlight and don't have it light the stadium yet. You can light the stadium separately. That's usually what the lighters do. I want to focus on the spheres only. If it doesn't light the stadium, then it's fine because you can just move it further down. So, because if it lights the stadium and you move it down, then the stadium's going to cast a shadow or it's going to block the light. So right now that light in the stadium have no relationship, so you can just move this down a little. And if you look through it, it's better because then you can light all the spheres, right? So that's good. Okay, so I got my light working. As far as the intensity of it, I don't know. We need to try it. Probably we can render just the bottom half of this image. And that's what you have to wait and see, and that's lighting. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna increase this intensity a lot just to see if this is working or not. I'm gonna put this back to 10 and I'm gonna focus on this section only. If you start testing 1, 2, 3 and you go open the intensity a little, and it's gonna take you longer to judge what this is doing. I don't see much of a difference, to be honest with you. 100. Let's see. If you don't see a big change here, you're not going to see it at all. Okay, I see something down there. So it means that you're going to need big, this is before, I didn't save it. You're going to need big intensities for this. AI exposure. Let's just try this attribute here. Okay, so it's good to save the previous state. Okay, so you can see before and after. Anything with the AI relates to Arnold render. So it has an exposure attribute that you can probably use. So you can leave the intensity at 1 and then just rely on this. So now let's try 5. You can emit diffuse if you want, which is color. You can emit specular, which is good. Let's try one more time. Big changes. Remember, it's the same with dynamics. Big changes. So you go with exposures of 1 and 2 and 3. It might take you longer. I can see the intensity and the exposure are related. So it doesn't matter. I'll put this back to 100. Try it again. I thought you could just, because some studios, they have their own lights and they don't use the intensity. They kind of connected already behind the scenes. In this case, they're not. So, okay, good. I pushed it a bit too far, but it works. So I'm going to put this back to 3. One last time. I'm going to change on one of these iterations. I'm going to change this image again. I don't like it. And that's what you will see how picky you can get and how much time you have to spend. But that's fine. I'm going to change it back to something else. Okay, but I'm happy with this. The stadium looks fine. I think is enough light for it. So the last change, I'm going to change again the material for the sphere light. It looks cloudy. You see that picture? I don't know. I don't like it. Let me just double check something before I change it. No, it's fine. I'm going to change it to something different. Let's see. I can't remember the one we were using before, but I think anything with a TX in it, it has been used already. So this is a little bit light blue. This is 112. It will come a bit yellow. Let me see if I used another one from here. I searched them by date, you see? These are all pictures. Okay, let me see this one. There's some here. No, actually they're not. Okay, fine. I think I have the PDF open still. Let me see if I closed it. I think I closed it. No, it's right here. So radiant skies, just to locate one here again. I think we were using probably one of these ones, 106, 108, 104. They have nice colors. I think we're at 96, right? That's the one we had first, 96. I remember now. Okay, so I'm going to locate it one more time. These are my extreme high res, probably. No, my skies. There you go, 96. That's the one we used before. Sorry, let me pick the right one. Okay, that's the one we were using. And let's wait for it for a minute. Let's save our scene and render. And let's see how long it's going to take. If it's going to take too long, I'll pause the video. Remember, first time it converts, now it goes through. Okay, I can see it already coming in. That is a bit too bright. Ah, that was the one that had the bright spot in the front that we didn't like. I'm going to let it render while I look in the PDF for something different. Because that's not really what I want. I want something different. We can try 80 and see how that looks. These ones have like water. This could be cool to reflect water on water because, you know, get more ripples in here. And this one has clouds probably. Let's try 87. Let's see if it pauses. Come on, pause for me. Anyways, it still works for judging the stadium, for judging other things. If it's too bright of a light, then the light will, you know, reflect of it and you won't see through it. So that's why it's a bit hard to see here. Okay, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, doesn't die. Well, but it's almost done. This is the perfect opportunity when I'm in the live courses to see if everything is clear, if you have any questions. But assignment-wise, okay, you have to recreate everything I did here. I won't give you the stadium yet, just to not cause any confusion. Find yourself some geometry, basic geometry, but get to this stage, get something interesting, probably more ribbons, okay? And get a nice looking render going for myself. Okay, so perfect, we're gonna change it again, and we said that we were gonna try, this one has purple. There's a problem with having too many choices, and it becomes a mess. To decide, it becomes really tricky. And nothing in here. This one has some mountains. I'm gonna try 80. 80 or 81. 81 I think is better. 80 is not here. So radiant skies, 80 or 81. 81 I think is good. Let's see what that looks like. This takes 1.5 minutes. It's not bad at all. I'm gonna try just this one. Remember that when you have describe a region like this, Maya will allocate all your resources in here. So the buckets, which is the little squares that you can see disappearing and becoming an image, the buckets will be smaller. So it's better. So that's why it's faster, right? So it takes all the resources and applies them into this region, instead of dividing and making big buckets for this region. So this is coming through, and it's way too bright, but I like it. So far, I like the colors. You know, I don't like the intensity of it. This is good. I think this will work. Final touches. Then grab the sphere light. Take the intensity down quite a bit. Try this again. This is the second lesson I record today, so my voice probably is failing now, so I want to finish soon. I like it. It looks like water. Another change you can make, if you want to, right now we're using the index of refraction of water. If you want to make it glass, then we can try it and increase that a little. Here we lost a little bit of the specular highlights, but again, on the example, okay, I think we don't need this anymore. We found it. Okay, the example is similar. It's clear. Right now we don't have crowd. They have crowd. They have more lights, of course. They have more stuff. I could probably increase it a little bit. What I was going to say is, why don't we try in the material of the sphere an index of refraction for glass and see what happens. So I'm going to save this one. So you can see the difference of the material. It's a little bit different the way the light behaves. Okay, you see the distortion is a little bit different as well. To make it look pretty as well, you can put more lights coming from the tops, and the more lights they hit the surface, the more glints and highlights you will get. Okay, let's wait for this to come to finish. I can see probably the refraction, right, is different. It's doing it in a different way as with water. So it's breaking up the ribbons a little bit more. A lot more, actually. So this is an index of refraction of glass, 1.5. And this is index of refraction of water, 1.3. So the light bounces more. You can look at these regions here. You can this is light from this ribbon bounced in this part of the surface. There's no ribbons up here, so that's cool. Very interesting. As you choose, as you wish. I'm going to bring the light a little bit more up. Perfect. I think we're good to go here. So what I will do is do a big render, pause the video for you, and show you the final result, and then we'll end the class right there. So bear with me 1 minute. I'm just going to show you what I'll do. Go in here, go to Full HD. In the Arnold render, you can up the samples if you want to. Um, we can also turn motion blur on. That's important, right? These things are moving. Motion blur is important. You have to turn on, and you have to be prepared to wait. That takes a while. The depth of the ray, probably increase it if you want to. You can put here. This is how much this thing is shooting rays of light through the camera and through the light, and they hit surfaces, and if they bounce this amount of times, they stop counting. So you need to up these things a little bit more. So probably double that one, volume. Okay, this is good. This is fine. Okay, I'm happy with what I have. This is going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to save it. Hit render, pause the video, and then we'll see what it looks like at the end. Okay, so this is the end of the render. It's coming through. I hope you like it. It took, well, it's not done yet. There's a few things to change, of course. You need to up the samples on the light for the environment. Okay, there's more just resolution to be put. Detail. The motion blur is a bit soft in here, but it does work. You can see you have motion blur. It took 9 minutes and 26 seconds. I didn't want to wait longer, but I think this is a good example and a good show of what happens in here. To sum up everything, we have the form, one main sphere that we deform. We have control on the simulation scene. We have control over the ripples and everything. How much, how big they are, how the frequency. We got 2 ribbons of end cloth moving through. Then we did copies, or the geometry cache. We did copies of the static sphere, and we apply the cache to them and offset it in time. We put a random set, anything. And now we have a material that is reflecting, it's actually refracting light. And you can see there's 2 ribbons being refracted in here. Everything is fine. The assignment is just to recreate something cool. If you want to use that image as a reference, by all means. I'm not saying that we're there yet, but we're very close. We're very, very close. We even have the bright spot at the bottom. You see? Bright spot down here, bright spot down there. So we're getting there, definitely. I think for a class being part of a big course, I think this is something that could have been a course on its own. Yeah, good. I think I will, if I were to do it again and I have more time, I will do this sphere, the main sphere, with more detail. As far as, using better render settings and all that. But I think this is a good representation of what's come through. Well, a couple of good classes, in my opinion. I like them, something different. I'm going to keep that in mind and try to recreate effects from other films as much as I can. So with that in mind, well, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.